I see people some joining in. A big welcome to everyone who's watching us live and to people watching us later at the recording. Thank you for joining Battery Day 2023. I'm going to quickly hand over to Mariana, who's going to introduce the case study, and we can start the presentation. Over to you, Mariano.
Yeah, thank you, Prayal, and very welcome, everyone. And I introduce the case study, today's case study. It's CATL investment case in Asian countries. Then the agenda would be 5 minutes of presentation, by the associate at a glance. Then we would go through alumni presentation and a very short poll presentation from the case study itself. Then after, we start with the case presentation, case study discussion. Then thank you for that. Then the mission of Battery Associates, very brief, is to create sustainable world to the power of people and battery innovation. We have built a global community of experts through the BatteryMBA and other, and we are proud that our network comprises 30% women and individuals based in 40 countries. Our key objectives are train a diverse and global battery workforce, bringing about affordable and community-driven innovation battery solution, and support business and governments in their transition to the battery power world. Thank you, Prayal. We can go to the next slide. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks,
Prayal, over to
Mariana, for
you.
that. Amazing. The reason why we are all here, Battery MBA program. So Battery MBA program is a 12 weeks program providing technical and market driven knowledge relevant to the battery sector. We are very proud to announce that we are now over 340 alumni coming from different parts in the world. And we also have a few scholarships available for underrepresented backgrounds and limited financial means. We have 3 cohorts per year. We also started a third cycle in September 18th, and the next cohort date is January 8th. We'll be putting the information in the chat for you in a while now. So feel free to have a look at the Battery MBA program, or if you would like to apply for a scholarship, feel free to do so as well. And now I'm just going to quickly introduce the Battery MBA alumni community, and we have a diverse range of profiles from founders to students, battery experts who have been enrolled in the Battery MBA program. And we really strive very hard to maintain the gender balance, and it's quite important for us that we bring forward the female community in the battery sector as well. We have a range of companies represented by our participants and who have affiliations with Tesla, Unico, Accure, Circular, GBA, and so on. We have participants from over 40 countries, as I mentioned, and I'm very proud to announce that we have a 95% recommendation rate to other participants, which is really what we strive for. Great, and now we can move on to the case study part of the program.
Thank you, Prayal, for that. The case study part is an optional task through the Battery MBA and starts in 2022. Then there are divided in 2 parts. The first part is 4 sessions from individual and group work together we share several case studies together from Harvard Business Schools and our own case studies developing from the alumni. Then there are 3, the case study that has 3 objectives. The first objective is to understand better the methodology of the case study itself. The other is to develop together important and relevant case study from the batteries. And the third one is that you join together with other people working together, as we see here some one very great example from alumni-wise. There are also here in this slide, you can see some examples of past cohorts case study. Maybe I can jump in and share one. Covers all the value chain. It depends of the alumni that they choosing the title. It starts, as you see here, the exploration, mining, and processing critical minerals through all the end of life, and also business-wise that we saw today's case study. Please, next slide. Prayal. Okay, then please, if you have any questions, include that on the chat. Then we are just right now to begin. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. Then today's case study is CATL investment in Asian countries, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. I would share you to download the case study on the chat now. Then, yeah, next slide. I introduce, thank you for joining. You are here, three alumni. Vignesh Srinivasan, it's a PhD research at the University of Malaya, focused on battery circularity. Then Jessica Dharmawan, founder Andler Consulting Company, focused on sustainability, and Sudhanshu, program manager, battery systems engineer, and green tech. If it's okay for you, you can introduce yourself on the case study itself. Then the next slide, and that would be the last slide from this first part. These are the poll that we share with the audience, broad audience on LinkedIn about the case study and what should be the key factor for CATL investment in Asian countries, considering the competition and battery projections. Yeah, the results was access to raw material for 45%. Then the second was government incentive, cell manufacturing in place, and other. Yeah, as we see here, the access to raw material was the most important for the broader audience on that. Yeah, then we can start. Bueno, if you want to share some thoughts on this poll, Jessica, Sudhanshu, or Vignesh, feel free. 2 minutes if you want to share some thoughts. You need to mute yourself. Please, Sudhanshu.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's a really interesting poll results that we're seeing here. Rightly said, if CATL is going to enter a market or invest in any countries, they need to see the first thing that we have access for the raw materials needed for cell manufacturing and everything. So again, when we'll be presenting the case study, you will find out there are more factors which will be playing in the decision making that for the central figure of the today's case study. So yeah, really excited to present this case study with all you today.
Great, thank you, Sudhanshu. Then we can stop sharing. Yeah, stop sharing. Then
Great. Great. So now it's the time for our alumni to present the case study. Sudhanshu, if you can start your screen share, we can move right into it. Great. The floor is yours.
Yes, hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yep, all good.
Yeah. So diving straight into the presentation of today's case study, uh, uh, we have a short introduction of ourselves. I'm Sudhanshu Ranjan. I have 6+ years of experience in lithium mines, specifically on various applications related to lithium mine. I'm currently working as a program manager at a battery-based startup in India named Tech Motors and Services.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I'm currently based in Indonesia. I'm currently an independent consultant helping to accelerate climate tech and sustainable development in Asia Pacific. Previously, I was working as a sustainability professional across investments and consulting, as well as research based in Hong Kong and Singapore, as well as the United States.
Hello everyone, this is Vignesh. Right now I'm pursuing my PhD on second life battery state of health and remaining useful life estimation at University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Additionally, I do serve as ambassador for the Battery Associates. I'm working with the backend software development for the battery cycler. And apart from this, I do serve as a technical consultant for the EV startups and as well as for the technical agency. So I support from the technical side as well as for the management side. So this is about myself.
Yeah, now jumping back straight to the content of the presentation. So first, I'll be giving the introduction of the case study. Then before diving into the ASEAN specific markets, I'll give an overview of the challenges related to investment in ASEAN countries. Then Jessica will take you through the Indonesian market investment opportunities, followed by Vignesh will take care of Thailand and Vietnam investment opportunities. And then we'll have the conclusions and questions related to the case study. Starting with the case study introduction, this case study, as you know by the title, this investment case study delves into the CATL's strategic pursuit of investment across the entire lithium-ion battery supply chain in three ASEAN countries, which are Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. The central figure in this case study is CATL's investment manager, uh, whom we have named Mr. John Chen. So you have the protagonist is John Chen here, and whose expertise and experience in energy storage and uh, lithium-ion industry will be instrumental in navigating the ASEAN markets landscape and the investment prospect at various stage of lithium-ion battery supply chain, which will start from the raw material mining, progressing through the material production, and all the way up to pack manufacturing and pack recycling. Okay, so now moving on to why CATL. So as of 2022, CATL's annual revenue exceeded 45 billion USD, demonstrating the robust financial performance and steady growth of over the years of CATL. CATL now holds the world's largest market share of overall cell and battery production. It is now more than almost it's close to one third of overall global battery production. This year it ranked globally number one in EV battery consumption volumes, and that it is being doing for consecutive 6 years. It is also ranked globally number one in battery energy storage system shipment for consecutive 2 years. So, given the scale of CATL, we decided that it would be a good case study to take CATL investment, how it may do investment in ASEAN countries. Now I'll move on to some of the challenges that ASEAN countries have in terms of regulatory landscapes, local competitions. So I'll give you a brief intro of these challenges. Like for example, the regulatory landscapes in Thailand. In Thailand, there is a the government is promoting the local incentives for local battery manufacturing. They are calling battery for Thailand incentives. So the CATL has to either have a tie-up with any local battery manufacturing firm to navigate those regulatory landscapes which are present in those. Also, there are local competitions in those countries which Seattle has to take care of. As we saw in the poll, the raw material supply is also a challenge that Seattle needs to look into before they invest in these countries. Uh, for for the raw material supply, the another challenge comes is the infrastructure development. How mature is the infrastructure in these countries? Also, a lot of market localization is happening in these ASEAN countries, specifically because everyone is trying to move away from or trying to localize the supply chain from start to beginning. So CATL has to look into that. And lastly comes the environmental regulations that the CATL has to comply with even before and after they have investment in these countries. Now I'll hand over to Jessica for the Indonesian market overview. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you. So, a market overview of Indonesia and its ambitions to become Southeast Asia's largest lithium-ion battery and component manufacturing hub. It has set this ambition based on three main drivers, which is leveraging its nickel reserves. It's currently the world's largest nickel producer. And it also has national targets to reduce its carbon dioxide emissions by 2030. And the transport sector, being the second largest emissions contributor, has also driven the third driver, which is to increase the adoption of electric vehicles. And they're currently targeting up to 2.4 million electric vehicles in use by 2025. And to achieve these ambitions, Indonesia has developed its own battery corporation. It's a state-owned enterprise comprised of 4 other state-owned enterprises operating in the mining and electricity sectors. And so they are aiming to build an end-to-end domestic battery value chain. This is also to fulfill their targets into reducing emissions, to build a more sustainable supply chain. So for now, in the upstream for nickel ore, they've also enacted a ban for nickel ore exports since 2020 to really develop and spur further the domestic supply chain. And they are also requiring for new battery plant facilities to develop recycling facilities as well. So this is really in order to not only develop the battery industry in Indonesia, but also to create a closed-looped supply chain in the country. And over to the next slide, we can see also the competitive landscape and the current investment activities. So since 2020, Indonesia has signed over 12 deals amounting to up to $15 billion for battery materials. And this has largely been driven by 2 main investors from CATL itself, who have invested recently up to $6 billion in developing new battery plants, as well as other supply chain developments and in spurring the ecosystem here of electric vehicles in Indonesia. And the second main investor being LG Energy Solutions. And as you can see here on the right side, this is a map of Indonesia and where the nickel activities and battery activities have been concentrated. So on the eastern side of Indonesia, that's where most of the nickel mining and refining have been done, given the concentration of reserves there. And then where you can see there, the island of Java, where Jakarta is, that island is majority of the consuming class, where eventually the electric vehicles or other battery products will largely be consumed. And so to the next slide, we can also see what kind of investment considerations to take for CATL and so for other battery operators in investing in Indonesia is that from the challenges, our 3 key challenges being the first, sustainable issues, mining and also developing the battery supply chain does come with carbon intensity and also environmental degradation. There's also social issues that are related to developing the supply chain. And as you can see in the previous slide, Indonesia is very spread out. It's the world's largest archipelago. So that also leads to further cost considerations in infrastructure and logistics development for across the entire supply chain from upstream to downstream. And currently, while it has very ambitious targets for EV adoption, the adoption rate is still quite lagging. So it can also look into investments can also look into other battery products or exporting battery products from Indonesia. And in terms of the investment opportunities, Indonesia has low labor costs and very helpful subsidized power prices to really power any CATL's further investments and other investments in the space. And the national government has also provided fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to further accelerate the development. And currently, there's also a EV battery standardization, which will help to reduce investment and capital costs in developing new EVs in the future with the battery being standardized. So those were the investment considerations and market overview for Indonesia, and it's really an exciting market to further follow for the battery developments in ASEAN and also globally. Thank you.
Coming to the Thailand and investment opportunities, first let's have a look at the targets set by the Thailand government. So here they mentioned by the end of 2030 you'll be having 30% of the vehicles sold in Thailand would be electric, and in between from 2020 to 2022 you have 60,000 to 110,000 EVs on the streets. You have from different range of applications, from cars to public transportation to the two-wheelers. But coming to this ambitious targets from the every country, so it's necessary to have a look at the potential where the cell manufacturer would have a great traction in terms of capturing the market. Next slide. Thailand is known for resources. This image shows the typical picture how much resources would be required in order to have a battery demand that will meet the 2022 targets. And coming to the company's perspective, you have 30% of the EVs by 2030, inside which you have the 14 battery electric vehicle projects. Apart from this, you have a dedicated 18 projects only on the battery manufacturing. So this can serve up for the energy storage applications as well, and some small scale industries also will be benefited. But when you want to start a cell manufacturing unit, it's obviously to have a look at the raw materials which is consumed and how to access these raw materials, whether we'll be having the lesser labor cost and the lesser machineries, and the cost of production would be am I able to control. So all those things we need to look into it before investing into Thailand. Next. So once you understood the target of the battery production, right now have a look at the present of the key EV players, also the battery manufacturers. So you have BYD, you have MG Motors, you have Goshen, which has already been established in the Thailand, and also you have CATL being coming to that part. So when CATL wants to actually pitch in their kind of portfolio, so it's necessary to have a look at the raw materials as well as the amount of cells which will be required for the battery production. So yes, next slide. Coming to Vietnam, you have Vietnam shares a border with Thailand as well as China. So it's been two major battery manufacturing countries. So coming to Thailand, you have three major groups. So first one is the Wind Group, and second one is the VinFast, which is a conglomerate from US based company. And next one is the Goshen, it's a cell manufacturer which has already been established in Vietnam for cell manufacturing. So coming to the investments as concerned in Vietnam, so you have three major investors. One is from the Wind Group, and VinFast and Goshen invested together, and you have the great millionaire from Vietnam, Mr. Pom Pham Not. So these are the investments that are already been done in Vietnam. So considering this into account, so if a CATL wants to start a new cell manufacturing factory in Vietnam, so basically we need to understand where is the market targets, as well as how much is the vehicles will be on demand by 2030 or 2050, depending on the policies, as well as what are the models which are presently running in Vietnam. Next slide. So here you have the competitor landscape. So along with the Goshen, you have part of battery manufacturing facilities as well. They outsource the cells from China and other neighboring countries, and they make the battery packs for energy storage applications, typically even for solar panel or for UPS applications. So right now the commercial cost is coming around $137 per kilowatt hour for making the battery pack, which is cells which are sourced from outside. And here we have the battery capacity details of different models from the VinFast group. So based on this battery capacity requirement, the investment manager can actually have a look into depending on the target requirement. So how much kilowatt hour will be needed, and what is the battery manufacturing capability that rightly Vietnam has. So he needs to make a compromise in this trade-off. Next slide. Coming to the demands which I'm talking about, so you have WinFast, you have Nordrang, and you have Vietnam Automotive Manufacturers Association. So these are the three bodies, like, govern the demand for the Vietnam. So you have 20,000 cars by 2025, you have 1,500 buses by 2030. So basic the specifications will be giving you the amount of kilowatt hours of battery that would be required to produce to meet this demand application. And after this, you have the cost comparison, like when you want to start a cell manufacturing company. So what would be the distribution in the cost? Like, you'll be investing in the energy, you'll be investing in land and building, the maintenance cost and the overheads, you have machineries, you have labor. So all those things you need to look as an investment manager. So coming to this infographic, like, compared to Vietnam, actually China is having the lowest capability because it's been serving as a huge supply chain to many of these cell manufacturing companies. So compared to other countries, like, Vietnam slightly holds a hedge, especially on starting the cell manufacturing unit, where the cost might be competitive, as we pointed out, like. Right now the battery production cost is coming around $137 per kilowatt hour. So we need to have a trade-off, like, where with respect to China and Vietnam, like, how we can effectively take the investment out and how much is the return of investment. So that will be a huge challenge for the investor to deal with. And coming to the conclusion part, like, you have from the Asian countries, like, the major challenge has been the supply chain, and especially from though Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam are rich in raw materials, but establishment of the standard supply chain, wherein you have the proper channel from cell manufacturing process to the battery integration unit until it goes up to the electric vehicle. So that has been the major challenge right now. So once this challenge has been built up, it is like, it's like a direct walkthrough for the CATL to have a establishment in the Asian countries. But coming to the cost perspective, it's an investment strategy call the investment manager has to take. Depends on the raw materials as well as the ROI, like, the company is targeting.
Amazing. Thank you very much, all the three speakers. We can now move on to a few questions from the audience. We have a few minutes remaining. Kwang has a interesting comment. It took decades for the standardization of a charging plug. It would be even more difficult to standardize a battery's form factor. Any comments, any thoughts on this? Padanshu, Vignesh, Jessica, feel free to expand.
Yes, I think it's a nice observation, but uh, right now we don't see, specifically in ASEAN countries, we don't see the form factor of the batteries being standardized, except as those of low speed vehicles, or you can say low speed two wheeler vehicles or low speed wheeler vehicles that are running in these markets. It's a lot different from European markets, and you can say the US market, where you have custom developed packs from big organizations like Tesla, or be it the battery manufacturer like Samsung or LG, which are doing custom development for each of these applications. In this market, what we are seeing is the vehicles are standardized, and in which the battery packs, if it fits, they are using it, even if it's small, even if it's big, even if there is tolerance. So yeah, I don't see any need of standardization of battery pack dimension as of now, until unless we are looking for you can say after second life applications or something, that we are having considerations in first life itself, based on those dimensions. Yeah, so that was my comment.
Great. Thank you, Sudhanshu. Very insightful on that. Amazing. I think we are right on time with a minute to spare. Any last closing remarks from the speakers on the case study or any other comments?
Prayal?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the normal case study track, we go over these 3 questions or 3, 4 questions.
Yeah.
Today's we don't have time for going through that, but when we share that in the Battery MBA, we have this conversation between us, sharing our thoughts on the case study. Very thank you, Sudhanshu, Bignes, for joining, and very insightful all the case study content that you share today. Thank you for joining, and see you in the next panel.
Thank you everyone for joining, and now join the networking area as well.